We are all deeply saddened by the sudden loss of 8 gallant men last week in a helicopter crash. And so we join the nation, the entire nation, to mourn, and we send our deepest condolences to the families and to the president. And we pray that the good Lord would grant them strength during this difficult time. Good day, and thank you for joining the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice in its maiden edition of Chraj and You, a Facebook Live session where we break down the triple mandates of the Commission into relatable and practical conversations that matter to you. My name is Rufina Dimbwe-Palvi, and I'm excited to take you on this journey. The focus of today's discussion is a topic that is critical but oftentimes forsaken. That is the rights of persons with disabilities. And joining me for this conversation is an amazing guest who has deep expertise and experience in the subject matter. He has served in various capacities advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities. He is also the acting Director for Public Education at the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Mr. Mauli Avuto. It's lovely to have you here today.
Thank you.
Viewers, please bear in mind that this is an interactive session, and so feel free to send in your comments and your questions as we go along. To start this conversation, we want to take our viewers through the basics. So, Mr. Avuto, can you briefly tell us what the mandates of the Commission are?
Thank you very much. The Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Chraj, is an independent constitutional body established through an Act of Parliament, that is the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice Act, 1993 at 456, to promote, protect, and enforce fundamental human rights and freedoms of all persons. The Commission is therefore a hybrid national human rights institution combining three mandates, that's the human rights, administrative justice or ombudsman, and the anti-corruption mandate. These are the three broad mandates of the Commission. Thank you.
Okay, so to the very critical topic that we are discussing today, which is the rights of persons with disabilities. Mr. Vuto, can you tell us what is a disability?
Thank you once again. Disability simply is any long-term physical, mental, sensory, or intellectual impairment or condition that limits an individual or a person from interacting on equal basis with others in a society. So that is basically what disability is. We have 26 types of disability world over. And the reason why the disability is a limitation to the person suffering that impairment or condition is that it does not permit or allow the person to do whatever people without disability can do. For example, if somebody is blind and you want such a person to compete in a race with somebody who is not blind, you can see how the blind person will interact with that society or will interact on that equal basis with that person. So such group need what we call reasonable accommodation to be able to interact equally with other people who are not disabled. For example, if you take Chraj here, we receive complaints from the public, but we don't have a sign language interpreter. Assuming somebody with hearing who is deaf, who cannot hear, is here, or who is dumb, who cannot talk, is here to lodge a complaint. How does that person lodge a complaint if the person is not educated, whereby such a person can maybe write the complaint? How do we interact with such a person? So it has some form of limitation on the individual suffering that impairment. In fact, in most countries, 1 out of 10 is suffering some form of disability. And in Ghana, according to the 2021 Population Housing Census, 8% of the Ghanaian population is suffering from disability. Yeah, so that is what is happening currently. Yeah.
Okay. So 8% of Ghanaians are suffering from disabilities. Now we want to know, are there any laws protecting these rights?
Thank you once again. There are laws at the international level, regional level, and national level. At the international level, for instance, the first disability-related law was the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Mentally Retarded Persons, which was in 1971. This was followed by the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Disabled Persons, that is 1975. The current one that we have is the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which also came into force in 2008. If you come to the regional level, that is Africa specific, we have the African Charter of Human and People's Rights. We also have its protocol, which is the African Disability Protocol, which also came into, which was adopted in 2018. This particular protocol is a call to action to leave no one behind. So we have the African Charter and its protocol. Unfortunately, Ghana has not ratified that particular protocol yet. The protocol came into force after 15 ratification. So after 15 countries ratified that protocol, it comes into force. But Ghana, unfortunately, has not ratified that particular protocol as at now. Then if you come to Ghana, Article 29 of our Constitution makes provision for persons with disability. So our Constitution recognizes persons with disabilities and their rights. Then we also have the persons with disability law that was passed in 2006 in Ghana. Unfortunately, that act came into force before the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability came into force. And so there are a lot of gaps in that particular act relating to the convention, which is the Mother Act. So that act has been reenacted now. It's now a bill, a disability bill. But in the absence of that act being passed, then the current law, the Persons with Disability Act 715, is still in force.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now let's go to the core of today's topic. That is the protection or the rights of persons with disabilities. And you did indicate in your submission that the 1992 Constitution makes provisions for some rights of persons with disability. Can you tell us some of these rights?
Yeah. Persons with disabilities are human beings, and for that matter, are entitled to all human beings. There is a model called the Disability Rights Model of Disability, which emphasizes that all persons with disability are entitled to all human rights, irrespective of their status. But there are certain specific rights that are very, very peculiar to their circumstances. For example, they have the right to equality before the law. That is, if they are involved in any dispute, they must be given the same right as persons who do not have disability. They also have the right to independent living. That is, they must be empowered so that they can have certain skills that they can live on their own without living or depending on anybody. They also have the right to be fully integrated in society. There are certain areas, for instance, that some persons with disability are not allowed to go. For example, if you take albinos, they are barred from entering certain communities in Ghana. For instance, Akwamufie in the eastern region is a place. Meanwhile, they have the right to be integrated into or fully integrated in the society. They also have the right to non-discrimination. They are not supposed to be treated differently because of their circumstances. Then they also have the right to equal support or opportunities. For example, if there's any opportunity that everybody is entitled to, you cannot say because this person is a person with disability and for that matter does not have right to enjoy that opportunity. They also have that right. So these are some of the peculiar rights that persons with disability are entitled to.
Thank you for that, Mr. Vuto. Moving on, we have heard what the rights are. We have a context and understanding of what disabilities are. But can you tell us, are these rights special? The rights of disabled persons or persons with disabilities, are there rights that we can say are special rights?
They are, in the sense that, as I indicated earlier, that we have a model called the Disability Right Model of Disability, which explains that persons with disability are equal and, for that matter, must be treated with dignity and respect. However, they are faced with certain discrimination, and for that matter, they need to be treated differently, or they need to be given some form of special dispensation. For example, if you take our traditional settings, for instance, as I said earlier, there are certain discriminatory practices that prevent persons with disability from engaging in society fully. For instance, in some communities, a chief cannot look at a disabled person. A chief cannot cite a disabled person. You cannot even be a chief if you are blind in some communities. As I indicated, the albinos one is a different one. If you go to right to health, for instance, there's a discrimination there. As I indicated in my earlier expose, I said if a person with disability, for example, goes to a hospital now, we don't have sign language interpreters. How does such person explain his or her condition to the doctor or the nurse so that they can give him or her the right prescription? These things are not there. If you go to education, for instance, they have the right to education as human beings as we are, but the environment, the facilities are not accessible to them for them to be able to interact freely with the society there and also learn as human beings as they are. So these are some of the special discrimination against them, and for that matter, they need special dispensation. Yeah.
To give the conversation some context, let us now introduce Chraj. Mr. Buto, can you tell us what specific role Chraj plays with regards to the promotion and the protection of persons, the rights of persons with disabilities?
Yeah. Chraj, as the National Human Rights Institution, is a joint to promote and protect fundamental human rights and freedoms of all persons, that all persons, including persons with disabilities. And so any service of Chraj, the persons with disability are also entitled to such services. For example, Chraj investigates complaints of violation of the rights of persons with disability. We undertake sensitization awareness raising on their rights. We also do monitoring. Chraj used to do what we call monitoring of the state of human rights. That particular exercise includes the rights of persons with disabilities, where we try to monitor the compliance of the state as far as its obligations under the international treaties that it has signed are concerned, to ensure that the obligations that the state has signed, they are actually adhering to those obligations and that is. So we include the rights of persons with disability as one of the themes that we monitor when it comes to the state of human rights. We also do what we call systemic investigations into the violations of the rights of persons with disability. The recent one, for instance, was the systemic investigation into the allegations of discrimination against persons living with albinism. That was done recently, some few years ago by Chraj. So we do that. And then we also do research into the rights of persons with disabilities. So these are some of the roles that Chraj play as the National Human Rights Institution in Ghana.
I'm sure by now our viewers are interested in knowing what specific things Chraj has put in place or has done with regards to advancing the rights of persons with disabilities generally who live in Ghana.
Thank you very much. I must say that Chraj has done a lot as a national human rights institution in the area of disability. First of all, Chraj investigates complaints of human rights violations against persons with disability and also undertakes public education to raise awareness about their rights. Apart from this routine roles that Chraj plays, there are other initiatives that Chraj undertook some years back and some very recent. For example, Chraj has a desk for special groups, including persons with disabilities. Chraj also had two designated officers on disability, one on public education and advocacy, that is my good self, and also a legal officer in charge of legal affairs. Chraj also developed the Chraj Act 456 into Braille version to assist persons with visual impairment to also have access to the law. Chraj also developed the audio version of the Disability Act at 715 and the Chraj Act at 456 into an audio version for persons with sensory impairment. Chraj also held a symposium with stakeholders on the implementation of the Persons with Disability Acts. Chraj, as I indicated a few minutes ago, undertook a systemic investigation into allegations of discrimination against persons with disabilities. Chraj also served on a technical committee that prepared the initial report on the implementation of the Persons with Disability Act. In fact, I represented the commission on that, and I served as the chairman for that technical committee that worked on that report. In fact, when you ratify a convention, in 2 years' time, you have to submit what we call the initial report. Ghana signed or ratified this convention in 2012, but didn't submit this report. And in 2018, a group was put together to do that, and I happened to represent Chraj on that committee and also serve as the chairperson for that committee, which prepared that report and submitted. Then Chraj also served on the committee, technical working committee, that reenacted the Persons with Disability Act, as I indicated, because there were certain gaps in the Act and that of the Convention of Persons with Disability. Additionally, Chraj also, in 2008, when the UN was celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, organized a special event, which was the National Human Rights Quiz for senior high schools. And a conscious effort was made to include special schools in that competition. And it will interest you to note that a female student from Bechem Special School was one of the awardees of that competition. There were 10 competitors or students who were awarded for their best performance in the AC competition, and one of the students or the awardees was a female student from the Bechem School for the Bechem Special School. Then there was also an event that was held in the Akropong School for the Blind, where Chraj donated furniture. In fact, specifically, it were benches that were provided for the students' dining hall. But we had some needs assessment, and then we realized that their benches that they were using in the dining hall were not in good shape. So Chraj provided them benches and also added mower, because per their condition, it was very difficult for them to do or to clear the weeds. So we provided them with mowers to be able to clear the weeds on the campus. So these are some of the specific role or initiatives taken by Chraj to promote and protect the fundamental human rights freedoms of persons with disability in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buto. Everything that you have listed, I think, is very commendable on the part of the Commission, from investigating complaints about discrimination against persons with disabilities to serving on committees that are proposing, implementing policies that advance the rights of persons with disabilities, through to sensitizing the public regarding how to treat and how to accommodate persons with disabilities. I think that these are very commendable. However, we know that despite the laws, rights are bound to be violated. And so what are some of the redress mechanisms that are available to persons with disabilities when their rights have been violated or abused?
Thank you. Chraj is the National Human Rights Institution for protecting fundamental human rights and freedoms. And so when the rights of persons with disabilities are violated, the first point of call should be Chraj. So they can trigger their complaints with Chraj. If that is not possible, they can also go to the Human Rights Court to lodge a complaint there for their rights to be, or for redress. If these internal mechanisms fail, they can also trigger or escalate this to the international level, that is the International Human Rights Courts, for their rights to be upheld. Yeah.
There you have it, viewers. And this brings us to the end of today's conversation on Chraj and You. A very big thank you to our guest, Mr. Mauli Avuto. And to you viewers at home, thank you very much for joining in the conversation. Please do like and share this and engage with this post by sharing, liking, and commenting, or even sharing it to people that this post might be beneficial to. We also encourage you to visit our social media platforms at Chraj Ghana across all social media, or visit our website at www.chraj.gov.gh for additional information on human rights, administrative justice, and corruption. My name is Rufina. Do join us next month for another interesting conversation on Chraj and You. Bye-bye.